Dell has a brand new laptop on the market called the XPS 15 2-in-1 9575, and we have both of them here with different processors and screen resolutions. Today I'll tell you if you should buy it, and if so, which one. Stay tuned. All right, so this laptop was announced a few months ago and it is finally available. We have two versions here, and let's talk a little bit about this device. So Dell has the XPS 15, the 9570, which was recently refreshed, and it's basically the same laptop as we've known for the last few years. This though is a 9575, and it's not meant to replace it. It's a different version of the device that folds into a tablet. Now, there's a lot of questions here about how useful a 15-inch tablet can be, but there's a lot of cool things about this device, and it's not just a retread of the XPS 15, which is what I really like about it. Let's go through the hardware though and tell you what's new. Looking at the exterior here, we have the familiar CNC machined aluminum from Dell, silver color, really nice design. Now, I should point out there's actually a black version, but you have to dig through it on Dell's site. It's all jet black. It is a heavy and solid device. It's not too heavy, technically lighter than a regular XPS 15. It's about 2 kilograms, or that's 4.3 pounds in freedom numbers, if you're interested. Looking at the ports, and very limited selection here, and that's because Dell was going for a thinner device. So on the side here on the left, you do have a battery meter, which is one of Dell's things. You hit the little button and it shows you how much battery you have left in there. Always a neat little feature, not a big deal though. SD card reader, but that is a micro SD card, so you won't be able to use full SD, and that's a bummer. I think for people who wanted to use this for photo editing, would appreciate the regular full-size SD, but there you go. We also have two USB Type-C ports. Now on the left side, these are both Thunderbolt 3s, so you do get 4 PCIe lanes. That means you can use this with an external GPU. Dell is doing that across all their devices now, so don't really need to ask about it, but you also use that for charging the device. It does come with a 130-watt charger, which is rather large, but it's a little bit bigger than a Surface Book 2's, but it's not too bad. 130 watts though, that's because of the GPU that this device has. Flipping around to the right side, we have the Kensington lock, headphone jack, and 2 more USB Type-C's. Now these are 3.1, not Thunderbolt 3, so you'll use these for your accessories and mice and all that. Looking at the bottom here, we can see the large intake vents for the fans. There are 2 of them on the inside. They are using the Gore thermal stuff that they use in the XPS 13 to help keep it cooler. It does keep this bottom pretty cool. It doesn't get very hot, but it does get warm for a laptop. So if you wear shorts, well, you may want to be a little bit careful. We also have the rubber feet here, which gives you a little distance. And there are 2 speakers here on the bottom as well. I should say the bottom edge. Pretty good speakers. As far as Dell speakers go, these are definitely on the better end. They're very crisp, very good audio separations. You're really going to get very good stereo separation here, but they don't get very loud, so that is a limiting feature, but I would say these are above average speakers. I should also point out there are a number of hex screws here at the bottom. You can access the internals of this device. However, the only thing you'll be able to swap out is that SSD, as RAM is soldered on. And I just want to take a closer look here at the back. You can see those new hinges on board, as well as this little separation here for venting and cooling. I think the design of this laptop is absolutely phenomenal. Dell did a really good job of thinking this through. Those hinges are smooth. I would say they're better than Lenovo's hinges, who have a similar design, as well as HP, who uses this kind of hinge. Definitely very firm and solid. All right, let's start with the display here. So this is running their new Infinity Edge. I say new because technically these bezels are thinner than the old XPS 15, so they are constantly making those even thinner. Looks really beautiful. Now there are 2 display choices here, and it's going to be difficult for you to choose, but I'll help you walk you through that. This is the full HD panel. There's also a 4K. These are the new IGZOs, so it's made by Sharp, and they look really, really good. And what the difference is now these go up to 400 nits of brightness, technically a little bit higher, around 430 nits. If you don't know about nits and brightness, this is a very bright panel. It's very good for even outdoor use. This is a very good display. The other thing I really enjoy about it, it has an anti-glare coating. If you're familiar with MacBook Pros, they use that on their displays too. So it's still a glossy display, but it doesn't reflect light as much. It's just very good on the eyes, and it's a really cool effect. I give Dell a lot of props here. They did this on the XPS 13 as well, and it just looks really outstanding. And I should point out both displays, Full HD and 4K, are of course touch. And you need that because this is a pen-enabled device. This is using Wacom AES 2.0, which is a very good system, low activation, 4,096 levels of pressure. Really, really good inking experience on this, just really impressed. Let's talk about this camera here. You can see, of course, it is below the display. Dell loves doing that. I don't want to belabor this. If you use a web camera, you're going to hate this. If you barely use the web camera, you won't care. But this does have infrared on there, so it does use Windows Hello facial recognition, which works very well. I've never had any issues with it, 100% accuracy all the time. Besides facial recognition, you do have this power button on the top deck. That's also a fingerprint reader, and you can use both, either or neither. It's up to you. Very good fingerprint reader, very fast, had no issues with it. Now, it's a little weird. I love power buttons on the top deck, but this does transform into a tablet. Most tablet devices put the power button on the side. You don't have that here. A little weird, but considering I don't think most people are going to use this as a full tablet most of the time, I actually think that's a smart decision. I just want to point it out there because it is a bit different. Looking at the keyboard deck itself, it is carbon fiber. It is the familiar design, very soft to the touch, feels really nice and inviting, versus some laptops which are cold to the touch. Now, as always with this kind of design, it does pick up grease a little bit from your hand, so you will have to wipe it down frequently. Not a bad thing, but it's just something to be aware of. Turning to the trackpad, it is a pretty large size, very good clicking. It is glass and smooth, also using precision drivers from Microsoft. I have really no complaints about this. Some people, are a little wish-washy on Dell's trackpads. I've never had a problem with them. I think they're one of the better ones on the market. This one too is very good, just feels very smooth and tracks well. All right, let's talk about this keyboard a bit here. It's one of the more interesting aspects of this device, and if you go back to our original video when we did a hands-on, I left the door open whether it's good or bad. All right, so what's the big deal here? Well, this is a maglev keyboard, and more than that, it has very shallow travel. So it uses like a butterfly switch, which you might have heard from the MacBook Pros, which are super controversial. A lot of people don't like them. I don't care for them myself. Those are very, very shallow. Plus, they have a very high failure rate. I don't want to dwell on that. These are similar to that, but they use a high capacity magnet underneath that gives you the bounce back up. It's one of the first times this technology is being used in a laptop, and Dell's being cautious with it. They're only putting it in this device basically to get feedback from users. So the travel is very shallow, 0.7 millimeters. To put that in perspective, a lot of laptops are about 1.1 millimeters. Some go up to 1.3. So how is this keyboard? I actually like it a lot. I think Dell should put this in more of their devices. It is a very fast keyboard to type on, and some keyboards I've used take a couple of days or even weeks to get used to. I didn't find that here. It was more like a couple of hours at most. I also found that the keys were very even in their distribution and actuation, so the way they feel was very similar. All right, so one downside about this keyboard is it's a little bit loud. So if you type in a library or a meeting or in a quiet coffee place, well, you're going to hear it. It's a very clicky kind of keyboard. Some people actually like that, right? Mechanical keyboard users. It's not quite as loud as those, but it is a louder keyboard than, say, what you'd find on the Lenovo. Okay, besides an interesting keyboard, these devices also have some fun, unique processors. So these are running Intel G series, that's the 8th generation. And what makes them different from any other processor we've seen is these share AMD graphics on board. Specifically, let me read this off. AMD Radeon RX Vega M GL graphics with 4 gigabytes of RAM. It's a heck of a mouthful. All you need to know is that those graphics share the same chipset as the Intel, so that allowed them to make a smaller chipset on board here. And you don't have to use the Intel HD 620 graphics, which are okay. You find those like the XPS 13, most Ultrabooks use those, but they're not very powerful. So how good are these chips? Well, you can compare them to the NVIDIA 1050 or NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti. It's around that range. It's not going to be a 1060, which is found in the Surface Book 2 15-inch, but yeah, you can do gaming on this. It's also very good for a video output. I really like the performance, and it doesn't matter if you get the Core i5 or Core i7, you're going to get the same AMD graphics. Now let's talk about the actual processor. I said Core i5 or Core i7. These are really good processors. In fact, the Core i5 on here is as good as a Core i7 in an Ultrabook. So take the XPS 13 with a Core i7. Well, the Core i5 in here is equivalent to that. So keep that in mind. The reason I say that is if you're looking to buy this laptop, I am totally okay with recommending the Core i5. It's very fast and you're going to get much better battery life with it. Now, the downside of that Core i5 is you can only get 8 gigabytes of RAM. They don't allow you to configure it higher. That RAM is soldered onto the board too, so you don't get much choice. Now, I don't have any issues with that. That price point for this is around $14.99. You can actually go to $12.99, but you're going to get a smaller hard drive. $14.99 though gets you that Core i5 AMD graphics, and it's a very good performing device. I think for overall for Windows 10 users, if you're a casual user or a student, that's a great bargain price right there. Now, if you want the Core i7, you're going to pay a lot more money. With the Core i7, you're going to get also the 4K display as well as 16 gigabytes of RAM, but that goes up to around the $2,000 mark. I should mention, to make things a little bit more complicated, if you really want the Core i7 with the full HD display, you can totally do that as well. That may not be a bad choice. That would be very good performance. If you're looking to pick this laptop, I would go with the Core i5 and the full HD. And the reason I say that is the battery life. So let's talk about that there. Battery life on these devices are okay. These are 75 watt-hour batteries, and they're decent, but they're not going to blow you out of the water. The Core i5 with the full HD will get you around 8 hours in regular workflow. Obviously, if you're doing gaming or video output, that'll be a lot lower. The Core i7 though in 4K, well, if you hit 6.5 hours, that would be pretty good for casual usage. That obviously goes down further if you're doing gaming and more intensive tasks. This kind of laptop is one of those laptops where I think a lot of people use them to bring between the office and home and use it for a little while, say on the train. They're not necessarily all day things like my Envy X2. In that regard, they're not too bad, and I found them totally acceptable, but you may have different expectations, and those are below average for a 2018 laptop. Luckily, you do have a rather large charger, but it does USB Type-C fast charging on there, so you can top off the battery pretty quickly. Now for storage, you have many options, including 128 gigabytes all the way up to 1 terabyte. That 128 though is a SATA drive. I would kind of probably avoid that. Go for 256. That's going to be the PCIe NVMe drive. Going to have much better performance. Speaking of, the performance is okay. You're going to get around 2600 megabits per second for read speeds, which is what you're going to use most of the time. But the write speeds I found disappointing, around 600, and that's definitely way below average. Now you can swap out the drive there. I would put in maybe a 970 from Samsung. You'll get much better performance. Of course, if you go up to the 512 or 1 terabytes, you'll get much better performance just due to the way NAND memory works. All right, let's talk about heat and fan noise. So the Core i7 obviously runs a lot hotter, and this device can get warm, but it is kind of smart. So it has gyroscope. So if you're using it in your lap, it kind of knows that and won't throttle the processor as hard. So it keeps it a little bit cooler versus when it detects it's flat and you're using it as a traditional laptop, it'll push it a little bit harder. Dell also has some pretty smart software on board here where you can control the heats and fan noise and all that stuff. So it's kind of up to you. But these devices, the fans are audible, meaning if you're just doing some light workload, you'll be okay. As soon as you start pushing though and doing some, say, gaming or video output, those fans do come on. They're a little bit louder than usual. You do have 2 fans on board. Not the most quiet or cool laptop on the market. Okay, so let's bring it all in. I really like these laptops. They're a lot of fun to use. Their one downside is going to be battery life, but for some people that's not as big of a deal. I think as a tablet, you probably don't want to use this as a tablet for very long. It's going to be quite heavy, but being able to rotate into, say, display or presentation mode or tent mode, it's pretty awesome. It's very convenient to use, and watching videos on this in that mode is an excellent experience. Speaking of the displays, those are very good on here. I would stick with Full HD unless you absolutely need 4K. Don't forget that 4K panel is an extra $400, which is super expensive. Plus, you're going to need that Core i7 processor with it. Now you're up to $720. That's an expensive upgrade. If you can do it, stick with Full HD and Core i5. I think it's an overall good experience, but if you're a video or photo editor, well, go for the 4K version. You'll appreciate that display. Otherwise, the fundamentals are good here. Audio is very good. Typing is great. It's got a good trackpad, and it's a fun device to use. I just really enjoy kind of playing around with it. And that's really important here when you're picking a laptop. So if you think this fits your needs and you're okay with those ports, I can give the XPS 15 2-in-1 a high recommendation. All right, so that does it for this review. Now, if you want more information about these devices, you can head to Windows Central and read my full review there. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody.